From Nancy Mace winning the House District 99 race to his own re-election bid to the debate over the John C. Calhoun statue, I sit down one-on-one with Charleston County Democratic Party Chairman Brady Quirk-Garvan for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Brady, it is so good to see you again.
It is great to see you. Always a pleasure to be here.
Likewise, we appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Well, let me take you to the obvious.
Sure.
Nancy Mace wins House District 99.
Yeah.
You told a Post Inquiry shortly after her win, quote, "This election shows us that Democrats have a good message and know how to move the needle in the elections." I'm curious, what's that message?
Well, I think the message that we represent is that we are here for good government. You know, the whole reason we're having this election, I think this sort of went a little unreported, is that, you know, Jim Merrill had to step down for ethics charges. And so what Cindy ran on was being honest, on being transparent, and trying to work for her constituents. And what we saw, the reason I use that analogy of move the needle is when Barack Obama ran, he got 32% of the vote.
Right.
Hillary Clinton got 35%. All of a sudden, Cindy Boatwright gets almost 45% of the vote. That's a huge jump. And I think what we saw last night is when Democrats talk about why they want to run,
right,
and when they have a clear, concise message, then it really helps. And while we came up short, and we congratulate, you know, Representative Mace on her victory, I think it shows there are a lot of districts that we should be competing in.
You talk about election, let's talk about your re-election.
Sure.
You sent the following email to your supporters and Democratic voters of the Charleston County area. You said this, quote, "Fellow Democrats, I want to reach out to you and let you know that after a lot of consideration, I have decided to run for re-election as chairman of the Charleston County Democratic Party. And I'm wondering, what made you consider re-election?"
Well, I think what made me consider re-election is that I feel like there's some unfinished business here in the county. I think that there are some seats that I know that we can win in 2018. I think that there are some people that I want to help make sure we move into office. And I also feel like I've spent the last couple of years trying to build the party, and we're in a really good position right now. You know, at the moment, we've got more money in the bank than we ever have. Going into an election, we've got more volunteers than ever. We've spent all this time building up a Democratic Party machine, and you know, now I want to take it for a drive and make sure we can have some impact in this election. So I talked about it with my wife. I talked about it with some elected officials, and really feel passionate that this is going to be a good year for Democrats, and I want to play whatever role I can in making sure we have success across the county.
Well, you just answered my second question,
sure.
so I'll go to the next one.
Yeah.
Fill in the blanks. The Calhoun statute should be.
The Calhoun statute should be seriously discussed and I think probably changed. I think, you know, one of the things that we know, Quintin, is that throughout history, our prism that we view the world changes. You know, what we knew in the 1800s is no longer true for the most part about how, you know, people interact with one another. It changed in the 1900s. We're now in 2018, and I think it's time to say we both acknowledge and respect the history that has happened, but we don't necessarily need to glorify it in 2018.
Catherine Templeton's MLK Day Twitter post.
Honestly, I thought it was offensive. You know, I think that Martin Luther King Jr. is someone who, again, can be and should be respected by all, but she basically politicized him for her own gain, and this is after she spent time sucking up to Steve Bannon. She's made racist comments before. She, you know, puts out policies that are hurtful and completely opposite of what Dr. King would have stood for. So to me, it was offensive. And, you know, I think if she had just said, wishing everyone a happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day, that would have been fine. But she tried to say that she was somehow of his spirit and of his message, and her actions and her policies just don't match that.
And I forgot to ask you, obviously, former Channel 2 weatherman and now a local attorney, Ben Pogue, he's going to be running for House District 110 as a Democrat.
That's right.
When you hear that, what sticks out to you?
Well, I am thrilled that Ben Pogue is running. I think that is one of those seats that I think is going to be very competitive in 2018. And I also think it speaks to the caliber of candidates that we're recruiting. You know, Ben Pogue is someone who obviously has a deep history here in Charleston.
Right.
A lot of people know him, and he is the kind of person that we need on the ballot. And I'm thrilled that he's running as a Democrat. I think he will represent our party well, and I think he'll represent his constituents well when he's elected. So I'm excited, and I'll tell you, Quintin, he is not the last big announcement that we'll have in terms of candidates. I think you're going to see over the next 2 months a lot of candidates roll out here in Charleston County in seats that maybe we haven't contested or haven't contested as seriously in the past, and I'm thrilled that Ben's running.
And just this past Saturday, right across the hall, I interviewed Patrick Bell. He's
Yeah.
running for Registrar's Deeds.
That's right.
When you look at that race, what sticks out to you?
Well, that's part of that unfinished business, to be
Okay.
honest, Quintin. You know, he came up one
Right.
point short last time, and I think what we know is that these courthouse seats, these countywide ones, you know, I believe that this year we will win both the Register of Deeds and we will win the probate judge. Those are the two that are up countywide
Right.
this time. When we do that, Democrats will now hold 4 out of the 8 seats in the courthouse. And I think that represents a tipping point. When I came in, we just had 1 of the 8, and for decades it had been all Republican controlled. In a county like Charleston, that's not the way it should be when we look at voting patterns. So I really want to get to a point where we control at least half the courthouse. And then I think the message for whoever comes after me going into 2020 is that we're going to sweep the courthouse. In 2020, we will control all 8 courthouse seats, and whether you're the clerk of court or the solicitor, you know, I think you need to watch out for 2020 because I think Democrats will be on the move.
You talk about voting patterns. What is the future of voting patterns in your mind?
Well, I think that it's twofold. One, we see here in Charleston County an increase in voters. You know, more people are moving here. People that have been here are registering more. They're turning out in higher numbers. So those are all, regardless of party, those are good things. We believe as people involved in politics that more voting is good. So that's a positive step. And I think the other part is Democrats are getting smarter and more targeted about how we turn out our voters.
Okay.
We know how to message to certain groups to motivate them to vote, and things that have worked in other areas, we're adopting those here in Charleston and across the state. And so I think what you're going to see is we're going to be able to eke out some wins in places that maybe we couldn't have 2 or 4 years ago because we're getting smarter and more determined about that.
Brady Quirk-Garvan, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Quintin.
Thank you.
Absolutely.